Hi creative friends, this is Soraya and thank you so much for being here. So I allowed this to completely dry and I am really loving so much about it. Now I just want to talk a minute about oil pastels because I made a video and I'll put a link to it in the description to this video. So I made a video about oil pastels, especially in mixed media, and the general adage is to use your oil pastels on the top layer because they are live, and what that means is that they never dry completely. And that is true. But however, in that video and the way I work with oil pastels, especially in mixed media, I layer stuff over oil pastels. And the reason why I do that is because I'm not really worried about it being archival, number one. I'm not selling it to anybody. And I myself personally, I don't I'm not trying to preserve it. But the second reason that I do that is because when stuff peels off or the pastels can move because it is live. It's very hard for me to explain, but if you do work in oil pastels, you know what I'm talking about. To me, I like those irregularities that happens because it's just metaphorically speaking, it kind of it symbolizes how life is imperfect. Things move, they change, but even from an artistic point of view, I really like all the kind of strange things that happen. So anyways, it's up to you how you want to work with oil pastels, but I just think that in mixed media, we have so much leeway, and as long as you're not selling it to somebody, or you yourself don't want it to be archival, I don't think that, I don't think that you can't ever layer over top of oil pastels. Now, that being said, I would not use my really expensive senneliers because they have a very high oil fat content and they're going to be like really creamy. So besides the fact that they're super expensive, I wouldn't layer on top of it just for the high oil content that it has. It's just, it might turn out to be like really messy. So I use my cheaper grade of oil pastels if I am going to put stuff on top of it. Now, when I was doing this portrait, I was just doing my mixed media portrait for my 100-day project. So I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to put stuff on top of it, etc. So I don't remember what kind of oil pastels I used, honestly. But that being said, I put the collage over top of it. So that, that should kind of stabilize it, I'm thinking. And it is kind of a little bit difficult for me to separate the jar from the background here, just because they're the same colors. So I am gonna have to kind of lay some colors to separate them. But I'm really loving like all this, like kind of the irregularities that happens, because like, I'm just gonna bring it up closer. Now it still looks like a big mess, mind you, because it's hard to differentiate what's really going on because I'm still in the early stages of building up my stuff. But what I am gonna do is I am going to put some tea bags. I do want to do that. So because tea bags are so amazing for so many different reasons, but when I put it over here, it is actually going to suggest fabric. So I'm gonna kind of, like, I'm gonna lay it like so. And I don't want this piece to overlap into the objects because this piece over here is going to be like fabric here. And when I did my still life series, I talked about how when something is in the foreground, and this is true whether it's a landscape, whether it's a still life, etc., then you put more detail into it. And when something is further back, it has less detail. It's just kind of like a technique, a tool that we have to suggest space. So what I'm going to do is, because this, this part over here is like going to be closer to me, I'm going to put the tea bag there, and I think I'm just gonna put one more piece over there. And I don't know if I'm gonna add it on the apple. I don't think so right now, but I'm just gonna build up my apple here a little bit. So you guys, if you are going to do a still life and work from real life, I made a video on how to set up a still life because there are some very important rules for lighting. So I'm going to put a link to that still life video, how to set up a still life. I'm going to put it in the description below in case you guys were interested. I took a lot of art classes in my mid-20s, and I did take a lot of still life classes because I really do like doing still lifes. So I'm just kind of building up my apple a little bit, and honestly at this point I'm just trying to more so also differentiate the the foreground from the objects and the background. Like I want to separate things a little bit here. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna like kind of just kind of define the fabric a little bit here, because I want the jar and the apple to kind of stand out. So you guys, another great thing is if you guys look in your art journals or just in your studio and see if you have pieces of art that you have worked on that you're, you don't mind covering up, it's really great to work over top of that, because not only does it get rid of your, if you're like kind of a little nervous about working on a blank white page because there's already stuff on there, but it also like you just get some really interesting things that happen, like irregularities that happen. Like say this shadow over here, that was just part of her dress, but I'm gonna use it as a shadow of the bowl, and I'm really liking that part. So a lot of interesting things can happen. And I'm just kind of building up here. So things are starting to, like kind of, they're kind of starting to take form. And so if you remember when I was talking about a color field and I said a color field is not just one color, and that is so true with anything really, with hair, with clothing, with fruit, with bowls, with like anything. And so a good thing to kind of see what I'm saying is true is like, just say you go to a home, like a Home Depot or something like that, and they have the the paint section. You'll see that, like say you can pick any color, like say white for instance. There's going to be like 100 different kinds of whites. There's not just going to be one white, and that's true for any color. That's because color is, you know, it's very complex. So as you can see, the apple is kind of taking shape a little bit here. And I'm trying to figure out what color I want to make the bowl. And so, I think what I am going to do is I am going to keep that blue for the shadow, and I think I'm going to make the bowl kind of a gray color, maybe. And I know that's not gray, but I'm just putting that down just to kind of give it some form here. I actually like that yellow a little bit there. That's the oil pastel showing through that I did not cover up with my collage. Now I'm going to use a little bit of blue here to kind of create some form for the apple. Okay, you guys. And I do want to put some shadows here. So you guys, believe it or not, but when I work on a still life and then I go back to working in, say, my art journal, whether it's, you know, any kind of journal that I'm working on, it really strengthens my visual language. And it helps me. You might not think that, like, you know, it's kind of hard to kind of see, like, oh, how would working on a still life, you know, help you in your kind of abstracted art journal, you know, but it really does. Now, if you notice, like, there's a lot of grays in this still life, which I really love though, actually. But, like, you know, the background is gray, the cloth is gray, the bowl is gray, this kind of object over here is gray, so I don't know. I don't want to bring in too many colors, honestly. I'm probably going to keep the gray, but maybe go with, like, you know, just like maybe some black. I don't know. And see, this is the oil pastel from the portrait, so I'm really loving that, actually. And this is what I mean when you use something you already have and then you work over top of it. You have really beautiful things that can happen, but you know, you just can't plan for it. Like, they just organically happen. Okay, you guys, I am going to let this dry and then we will come back to it. So if you've watched all the way to the end, thank you so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.